Greetings, good people of the internets. It's Historia here again. This video is for all you normal people out there. You people who used to get a reward in the form of interest for saving your money, but no longer do because the central banks figured low or even negative interest is good. And we need it because people shouldn't be incentivized to save. They should spend, or at the very least invest their earnings, to keep the machine well oiled and running. Eternal growth is here to take care of you and set you up for life. Anyway, I digress. Let's get back on track. I'm here to tell you about one of my favorite products, a savings account of sorts, which I think is an excellent alternative to regular high-yield saving accounts and relatively easy to get started with. Obviously, since it's not FDIC or otherwise insured, if your risk tolerance is very low, you'll have to skip it by default, since there is actually more than one type of counterparty risk with it. More about that in a bit when we go over the pros and cons. So, the product is called CryptoEarn, and mastering it can be complicated, but even doing the bare minimum will get you an excellent annual interest rate of 10%, and anyone can follow the instructions in this video to get it done. As long as you know how to install an app on your phone, you should be good to go. Everything is done in a centralized manner, so there are protections in place so you can't accidentally send your money into a limbo where it is no longer accessible. This means you are not responsible for holding your assets safe, but instead rely on a third party to do so. All in all, it's a very set and forget type of arrangement. This method works the best for you good people from the United States, Great Britain, Australia, Canada, and some other countries due to these currencies being natively supported. Anyone from the rest of Europe and elsewhere in the world has to endure some additional risk because their savings must be in a currency that is not their own. And if their own currency gets stronger against this other currency, the earned interest may not be enough to cover the losses from converting back to the more expensive currency. On average though, you come ahead, and thus taking the bet is the right move most of the time. But of course it is a harder proposition for citizens of these countries than never leaving your national currency, which gives you 100% predictable results. Of course, this currency fluctuation can go the other way too, and if your native currency gets weaker versus whatever it is you are saving in, you'll enjoy both the interest and the additional purchasing power from being in a stronger currency, which naturally buys you more stuff. So, what do you need to do to start taking advantage of this? First, we need the Crypto.com app, which you can download from the link below. There is a referral code worth $50 in there, although the requirements of the program do not automatically trigger with Earn alone, but require you to take a look at their card program, which too is excellent. I have made a video about it before, and although there have been some changes in participation amounts required, as well as the perks offered, the video is still relevant enough and worth checking out. After you download the app, you will have to complete a Know Your Customer verification to fulfill their needs for compliance. In other words, they need to know and confirm that it is really you who wants to open an account in your name. Regardless, let's get on with how this works, shall we?
After your account has been approved, we can start the app. First, we need to navigate to your fiat wallet. This is the regular currency wallet that holds your US dollars, euro, British pounds, among others. You can find it from the Accounts Fiat Wallet section of the app. Once there, click on Set up New Currency. At the time of making this video, the supported fiat options are United States dollar for anyone with a US social security number, euro, British pound sterling, and the Australian dollar. I would imagine they will add more in the future, but for now, these are your options. Strictly speaking, this step is optional, but extremely recommended, because depending on where you are from and your preferences, it can save you money getting your funds into the app and enables withdrawing back to your bank account. In any event, you have a few options, of which we will cover two here, because we assume you are a regular guy who just wants to get a better interest rate than they do from regular institutions. What most people consider the most convenient option is to buy your desired currency equivalent with your credit or debit card. I actually do not prefer this option myself, especially for the purposes of creating an alternative to a savings account, but since opinions differ, we'll go over it here nonetheless. First, when buying with the card, it is really important to go to the home page, click on Settings, and then on Payment Currency. Make sure to set this to the same currency your card is in, because that's the currency your card will be charged in. Most banks will charge a hefty currency conversion fee if you are charging their card in a different currency than it is issued in, and we definitely do not want that to happen. Then head out to the main page. Click on Trade, Buy, and choose the currency of your choice. You have several options, 4 tokens from Trust Token and several different ones for USD. All of the fiat currency tokens pay the same amount of interest per year, so feel free to pick any of them. After you have chosen a token, we get to the actual buy screen. Here you can add your card and perform the purchase. This turns your regular money into a different form which is pegged against that currency and stays very close to its value. Do note that you want to buy at least $250 worth because that's the minimum deposit you can put in to earn, and this conversion process isn't 100% free, so you want to offset the costs by actually being able to earn interest on it. Now, before we move on, let's go over the other option. Here, instead of using a card, we use a bank transfer. When you created your fiat wallet, it actually made you an account that you can deposit money into. It's an account in your name, which you can only have indirect control of via the app. So if you are from Europe, you can deposit via a single Euro payments area payment into your Euro account. If you are from the United Kingdom, you can use faster payments. And if you are from the US, automatic clearinghouse payments. I'm not entirely familiar with the Australian version because it was added recently and I haven't used it myself, but I'm sure you'll be able to figure it out. So, which one of these is better, a card purchase or a bank transfer? Card purchases are instant, but your bank may charge you extra for them, and especially in the US, decline them altogether. In addition, they are not free everywhere, and in some countries you may have to pay extra for the convenience. A bank transfer may take a longer time to arrive, but since we are talking about long-term interest for a stable asset, missing a day or two of interest really doesn't do much in the grand scheme of things. The problem is not every corner of the world is supported, and you may have to resort to some third parties to get your account funded. In addition, eventually withdrawing your money might be even more difficult than getting it in, so do ask for advice or do a bit of research if you are not from a directly supported country. When buying with a bank transfer, you first need to wait for the money to arrive into your fiat wallet and then do the same as we did earlier, but click on fiat wallet instead of going with the default credit card option. For this method, you don't need to change your app's currency, because the purchase is always done with the currency of the fiat wallet. As long as your bank charges no fees for transferring, this process is entirely free. Now that we have finally managed to convert our government-backed money into money with no government backing, we are ready to proceed. Click on the center bottom logo and select Earn. Once there, hit the plus button and choose the token you bought earlier. You are then presented with a selection of different term lengths. Naturally, the longer the term, the higher the percentage, but your money is locked for the time specified. I personally use 3-month terms in almost every case, and there are some advanced strategies you can use to still have quite flexible access to your money that we will look into at the end of the video. In most cases, I would recommend the 3-month term, but feel free to do whatever suits you. Next, you have to read and understand that there is no free lunch, and everything carries risk. With this program, I feel the risk is pretty low compared to the reward, but what do I know? Not much at all. Don't take my word for it, and do not do anything you are not comfortable with. If you feel like you aren't going to lose your sleep over this, you can continue by ticking all of the boxes. Afterwards, there's only one more thing to do before you are all set, and that is to decide on a sum to lock in. You can hit the max button to just deposit everything you bought. There, we are all set and done. Depending on the option chosen, your funds are now locked, and you can look at how they are doing from the list below. Clicking on the contract will show you how much interest you have already accrued and when your term is completing. The interest is paid out weekly in the same token that you put in. You can sell it to your native currency and put it on the card for spending, keep it as it is, or withdraw it. You can also utilize it as a part of another earn term, which allows you to enjoy the benefits of compound interest, further raising your annual percentage. If you have a keen eye, you may have noticed that I'm getting a higher percentage than the previously mentioned 10%. This is because I have registered for a high tier card, and some of the card tiers improve this earn program. If you're putting in a lot of money, you may want to do a little bit of math to see if upgrading your card tier would improve your earn rate enough to make sense, even if you weren't interested in the card on its own. For these stable tokens, the medium tier Jade Green and Royal Indigo cards are enough to pump the interest rates by 2%, and the high tier Icy White and Rose Gold cards will add yet another 2% on top. Now that we have got the basics, let's talk about some of the pros and cons of this program. The pros are that it's very easy to use, especially once you have done it once or twice, and there is no way you can actually lose your money by doing something wrong. This program also has very competitive percentages, especially versus traditional institutions. The interest is paid out weekly, which allows for easy spending and compounding. The centralized platform allows a set and forget approach, and your funds remain safe even if you misplace your phone or forget your password. And finally, the program offers more options than just the good old USD. But nothing is perfect. There are some cons with this also. First of all, these accounts are not insured, so you can lose everything. Swapping between fiat money and stable tokens is not free, especially if you are using USD, so you shouldn't do this for anything less than 2 weeks in that case. Unless you are from one of those countries mentioned earlier, there is a high chance that your currency is not supported. In addition, there is some counterparty risk, because not only can Crypto.com go belly up, it is also possible for the stable token provider to do as well. So there are more than one way you can lose your money. But so far everybody has a pretty established history, and apart from Tether, there are not any huge red flags. However, government regulations and stuff like that can still change, and there is always risk involved with this cryptocurrency stuff. I think it's probably more likely that if something like that was to happen, you would be able to get your money out, but you just wouldn't be able to continue earning on. Additionally, centralized platforms mean that you are not in control of your tokens, nor are you completely private, and the interest rate is lower than some of the decentralized finance solutions. Finally, let me offer some more advanced concepts for your consideration. This program is not limited to stable tokens. There is just one option among many. There is a ton of different cryptocurrency options to choose from if you want a high risk, high reward option. Another interesting one is the Pax Gold token, which, like the name suggests, is tied to the value of gold, but unlike physical gold, actually pays a little bit of interest per year. It's an interesting hedge to both fiat and crypto, especially during these times where anything could happen with the economy. I always recommend you to do research on any particular tokens before you decide to buy them or lock them in for earn, but there are some with a long successful history like Bitcoin and Ethereum to choose from as well. While still high risk, they are finding their way to even traditional portfolios these days. Another thing worth possibly taking advantage of is the staggered earn. This has multiple advantages. Let's say you deposit into a 3-month earn the same day of every week. This allows you to take advantage of the interest earned from the previous earns and put it right back in there, which normally can't be done because of the minimums, unless you are playing with huge sums of money. In addition, it allows predictable completion of previous terms once per week, and thus you'll always have money in the app at your disposal. If you need to make some purchases, you can just put it on your Visa card, and if you don't, you can put it back in and evaluate again next week. This makes Earn seem even more like a savings account. If you have enough money, you can even make a new Earn contract every day, which maximizes your compounding and flexibility. Though in order to do this, you'll need a minimum deposit for 90 days straight, which is not a small sum of money, for sure. Regardless, the weekly option is pretty great too, and in my opinion offers a good amount of flexibility while still maintaining the highest earn percentages. Well, that's all for this video. I hope you liked it. If you have any questions that weren't answered, you can ask in the comments and I'll be sure to reply quickly. Feel free to drop by in the Crypto.com Discord group, link in the description. See you in the next one.